All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kabadash, and double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Out here another week in, week out, doing the work, prophesying about the destruction of this kingdom and the prophecies about the salvation of our people, who our people are, and the things that happen. And, one of the big reasons we're out here is, as it says in Ezekiel 33, is to blow that trumpet. I'll start getting that scripture. Stay there where you're at. In Ezekiel chapter 33, it talks about how, if we don't let the people know what's coming, ultimately the blood is on our hands. So Ezekiel chapter 33, in verse 1, it says, "Again the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, When I bring the sword upon the land, if the people of the land take a man of their coasts, and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning. His blood shall be upon him, but he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchmen see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand." Okay, and that's going into how, we're letting the people know what's coming, so we're getting the bloods off of our hands, and so that you people got no excuse, right? That's why I believe it says in John that they would have not had sin if I didn't speak unto them, but now they have no cloak for the sin, right? So these people have no excuse when it comes to doing the right thing, because we're letting everybody know, hey, what's coming, how it talks about how Jacob's trouble, a time like never before seen, that America is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles, that the RFID microchip is the mark of the beast, that World War III is going to take place, and that the only way to make it is through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? Your silver, your gold, your bunker isn't going to be able to deliver you. So we're telling them all these things so that they don't have an excuse, okay? And it's going to keep on happening until the point where they see it's evident that, we are those prophets. We are the men. It says that in the last verse of that chapter, that it says, "And when this cometh to pass, the Lord will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them," right? And the title for that is Yahweh's judgment on the mockers. So soon, people will realize that what those men were talking about, was the truth, and that everything that they said is happening exactly as is written. So we already know that it says that majority of our people are not going to make it, and there's going to be mass judgment. That's why it says in 2nd Ezra chapter
9.
Yep.
2nd Ezra 9. 2nd Ezra 15. "I have said before, and I now do speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that there will be many more of them which perish, and of them which shall be saved, like as a wave is greater than a drop."
So going into the comparison of how many people the Lord is going to take out, as a wave compared to a drop, okay? The drop resembling the elect, and the wave resembling all the people that ain't gonna make it. Which, that's a crazy comparison, but that's exactly how it's gonna be. It says that in going to the days of Noah. It says that in Matthew, and it should just be NOE. It will pop up, but it says that this is gonna be the same time, the same thing as when Noah was alive, and he was prophesying about how the Lord was gonna take this out by fire, or by water. I mean, it's gonna be the same thing, but now by fire, and it's going into that thermonuclear fire.
Matthew 24:37. "As the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that there were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Right, so it's going to be the same way how people were eating, giving into marriage, so just having sex, partying, living vicariously, which means doing whatever you want to do. And they knew not until the waters came. So it's going to be the same thing now. That's why you see, such a heavy party culture and everybody talking about you only live once, do whatever you want to do, which is a completely backwards mentality. Because if you truly understood, you're paying for what you did in your past life. Here it is, all those people that think, oh, you only live once and they do all this wickedness. Hey, judgment is going to be next time they come around. Or even in this lifetime, the Lord can get you. So that's why it says that evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. Right? That's a crucial thing when it comes to judgment, is reincarnation. Which, when you really look at it, those spirits that were back then with Noah being wicked are here today, doing the same thing. So that's why they say that history repeats itself, because it's the same people coming back doing the same thing. And as it says, they knew not, until it happened. That's why Yahweh Shai said that he's going to come like a thief in the night. Okay, you get that? Thief in the night. And I'll get this in 2 Peter. And these people are not going to be expecting for Yahweh Shai to come back because they're not even watching.
Second Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up.
Break it down.
So pretty much, it says the Lord will come as a thief in the night. That's the same because you don't expect a thief to come. You're just chilling there at your home, and then out of nowhere, somebody breaks in. It's an unknown timing. So pretty much, if it were the other way around, if you would know when the Lord was coming, let's say there was a set day for it, everybody would just do whatever they want, but in that day they would start acting right. So that's why it says as a thief in the night. So it's an unknown thing to man.
It's an unknown thing to the world.
Yeah.
Because the elect will be able to see the signs and understand that, okay, if this has happened so far, then we know that this is, about to take place. We know that Yahweh Shai can't come back until the mark of the beast has been made mandatory, right? So the elect are going to be watching, right? We're watching for the thief, right? We're seeing how, the hearing the rustling in the branches, seeing something going across the video camera, but we don't know the exact moment he's going to strike. We know he's coming soon. We don't know the exact moment. But these people, they don't even know that there's a thief. Well, they know there's a thief, but they don't even care. Here it is, they're getting all these alerts on their Ring system, their Ring camera system, and they're just ignoring the text. That ain't nothing, it's just a cat. But that's the way it's supposed to be. Talks about how the cares of this world, it ultimately choke the word. And that's majority of people stuck in the world, going after what the world matters, what the world cares about, which is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes. Niggas worry about getting money, getting women, getting drunk, and ultimately all those things lead to nothing.
It's pretty much like you're not in the right state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if you chilling at your crib, getting drunk, you got a couple biddies over, you ain't gonna be all the way there if someone breaks in.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna know how to react or what to do. So that's why you gotta be on your 10 toes.
Right, that's why it says here, 2 Peter, or 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Right, so we're supposed to be sober, right, which that goes into being vigilant. If you're drunk, right, your senses are altered, you can't do everything sharp. And that's when you see that those demonic attacks really amplify, because you ain't on point. And that's one thing. It says, the devil as a roaring lion walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So it's a constant battle 24/7 to stay on the right path. And it says, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Right? So, whatever you're going through, it's not something new. Right? There are other brothers, other people going through the same thing. And, the biggest thing is find those distractions. Because, I heard a brother say today how, these people in the world, you can't save them, but they can definitely take you out. You can't save them, but they can bring you back into the world. You can't bring them to the truth, but they can bring you back into the world. Right? So, going back to 2 Peter chapter 3.
Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye be in the holy conversation and godliness?
Right, so when you go into that word conversation, it goes into the Greek word anastrophe, which means manner of conduct, life. So knowing all this is going to happen, how are you supposed to be conducting yourself? What are you supposed to be doing? And that's something that the masses don't think about. They don't think about serving the Lord. They don't think about the consequences for their actions, especially the women. That's why you see it's a common trend how, saying that women take no accountability, because ultimately they're the weaker vessel. So even these men have became to that state where, that's the whole thing with the YN culture. It's niggas up in that shit, shooting for no reason, because they were emotional. And, whenever something goes down, they don't want to take that accountability and say, you know what, maybe I was wrong. They always quick to point the finger. Which that's why Yahweh Shai talked about how, when you point the finger, it's as they say in the world, right? You pointing the finger, but you got 4 fingers pointing back at you. Because you got to examine yourself first before you judge someone, or else you're a hypocrite.
I think it's almost ultimately like a pride thing, a very ego thing with these YNs, because they don't want to be like looked down upon, like, oh, like I can't let him do that shit to me, like he treat me like a bitch. So you pretty much got that spirit of pride on you, and that's your downfall.
And that's really the spirit of the world, because Yahweh Shai came preaching the opposite. Right? When the disciples were arguing between each other as to who's the greatest, he said, whoever will clean the feet of the other is the greatest. Right? So going into humbly. And that goes into, the believers. Not just cleaning a random nigga's feet in the street. A wicked nigga's feet, serving a wicked nigga. The scriptures don't talk about that. It talks about how you shall know, they shall know the believers by the way that they treat themselves. Right? So going into the brothers, how we treat each other, the way you walk, right? The light that you have, the way you conduct yourself, going back to as it says. So read the next verse.
Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness.
Right, so we're looking for something different. Okay, all these people have a long-term mindset here, but we have a short-term mindset. We have a short-term plan. We're not thinking about America being here another 200 years and thinking about a 401k, a Roth IRA. And they ask you at the job, how do you see yourself in 10 years? All that bullshit. Because people really think that this place is going to make it another 100 years. They think that this place is untouchable. Which, go to Revelation 18. It talks about how the people are going to be in that mindset. But we're not in that mindset. As it says in Hebrews, we're looking for, it says this is not our rest. I'll get that. And first I got the one in Micah. Revelations 18 and
17.
Let me read this first. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with the sore destruction. Right? So you're supposed to depart from this place spiritually. Doesn't mean go get a visa, go to Jamaica. means depart from this place spiritually. You're not supposed to be attached to this lifestyle and everything here, because this is not our rest. Right? This place is polluted, and this is literally the epitome of wickedness, is what we're living in. So, read that.
18 and 11.
This is going into Babylon the Great, which when you go into the prophecies, it's talking about America. So go ahead and read that.
Revelation 18 and 7.
Good.
How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her place come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judges her.
Right, so the mindset is that, I'm a widow, I should never see loss. Going into how they don't think this place is going to go down. They think that this is the top of the top because we got the military, the U.S. military, biggest military. That's what they stand behind. And that's Esau standing behind his blessing, standing behind the sword. But, soon, that sword is not going to be able to save him no more, because the Lord has written that this place, will fall. So, as it says, they have that mindset of, this is never going to fall, but in 1 hour, this place is going to be destroyed by that fire. And the reason it says in 1 hour is because those intercontinental ballistic missiles can come from Russia to America in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, all this can be completely done. Which, that's why it says in Joel, the 2nd chapter, that before their faces shall be much pain. All faces shall gather blackness. Because when they see that, they're going to know that it's a game over. When you get that, alarm on your phone, on every single TV, every single news station, radio station talking about this is a national emergency. Alert, alert. There's a nuclear missile on the way. They're not going to tell you go seek a bunker. It's most likely going to say, hey, go find your close relatives, pray, because it's game over. It's done. There is no outrunning a nuclear missile. Which they showed that in the movie or the series Black Mirror. There's an episode, I don't know if you saw it. It was going into exactly that. It was literally at the end of the episode, it was like between like an Indian looking woman and there was an angel that was like a dark skinned man. And at the end they just show like all these European UK people in like their little office, and they just see out the window just missiles, flying through the sky. And they just see it hit the ground, they see that nuclear mushroom cloud go up, and all they say is, it's really happened. And you just see how, there wasn't no time to react. That shockwave came, and it was done. Which that's written about in, if you go to Isaiah 14, I'll get Revelation 6. You guys can pass. Right, Revelation 6, in verse 12 it says, And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Which John was seeing those missiles fall down. It's gonna look as if, a fig tree, the figs just falling down randomly. Okay? It says, And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Right? So he was describing that mushroom cloud, which looks like a scroll, being rolled together. And it says every mountain and island were moved out of their places. So it's gonna be, a mass shockwave, just complete destruction. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Right, so they're gonna go run to those bunkers to hide, to survive. And it's so crazy because if you have that spiritual eye, you can see how this is all talking about this event. You know, nothing else can line up so perfectly as to what we're reading besides the nuclear destruction, which shows you that, hey, these scriptures, are alive, that the Most High, that this book is a real deal. Because this was written 2,000 years ago. And here it is, you know, us 2,000 years later can see how, you know, now it's all starting to line up. You know how it says in Habakkuk that the end shall speak and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So we're seeing these prophecies happen exactly as they've been written. And that's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people when they realize that their religion, their belief system was wrong. When they see that, you know, their Jesus Christ or their Muhammad or their Vishnu, their Krishna, their Buddha isn't doing anything, right? They're not going to have the answers because, they're not truly serving the Most High. But read that. It's
Isaiah 14.
scroll down. Isaiah 14 and verse 22, 23.
Isaiah 14 and 23. I will also make it a possession for the bitter.
Read 22.
Isaiah 14 and 22. Fire rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from them Babylon the name, and remnant and son and nephew, saith the Lord.
Right, and stop it right there. The Lord is the one that's cutting off this place. That's why, and we know without a shadow of a doubt that no matter what these people do, that this is not coming back. Right? You see so many people with that hope of, you know, a new president or some new laws, legislations, and policies being passed, thinking that, oh, you know, the economy is finally going to bounce back, and that, you know, peace in the Middle East, you know, all this, as it says, peace and safety, but then that sudden destruction is going to come, which, you know, that's why the Bible, these prophecies are the ultimate tool, because we got the upper hand. You know, we're able to see the movie script fully, whereas these people are still sitting down and just looking at the screen. You know, we're in the little cockpit being able to see the future. So that's why it says that in that day, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. Okay? Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. The understanding of these prophecies is the most powerful thing that you can have. But read that.
I will also make it a possession for the bitter and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord of hosts.
Right, so that word, he said he's going to sweep this place with the besom of destruction, which that word besom, you go into in the Hebrew, it goes into a broom. So the broom of destruction, which goes into the nuclear missiles. Because if you were to look at it from a top-down perspective, it looked like this place is being swept. You know, one impact and everything around it starts being swept. Which go to Joel chapter 2, it talks about, you know, one side being as the Garden of Eden and the other side being a desolate wilderness. You know, all talk about the same event. Which a lot of people, you know, you see it over and over. Brothers get those comments, y'all saying the same thing, you know, it's repetitive. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. You know, we're supposed to be a broken clock, speaking the same thing. Okay, that's how you know it's correct, because the doctrine isn't changing. Okay, the apostles, it's starting, you know, way back, haven't changed the doctrine at all. And you can see, you know, the fruit that it has produced. Whereas these other groups, IUIC, or formerly, you know, the other group, Sakari, which that broke up, you know, they're constantly changing and changing and changing what they believe in. Okay, here it is now. Nate from IUIC, the leader, at one point he said that the mark of the beast is sin. But now he's slowly saying that, hey, they might throw a chip in there. You know, he's saying that, oh, you know, maybe it has something to do with the CBDC. You know, he's backtracking because he's realizing that, hey, they're saying the truth. But he doesn't want to come out publicly and say that GMS was right, because that would ultimately, you know, his pride is not going to let him do that. But you know, maybe he does come around to preaching the right thing, and, you know, who knows? But the point is that these groups have been constantly changing their doctrine. And Yahweh Shai, you know, the disciples, they all talked about how, hey, stay away from people that have a different belief system, because ultimately it says can two walk together unless they be agreed? It says that in Amos. So you can't be with another person if they believe something else, because it's contrary. If you with someone that believes you can eat pork and you don't eat pork, ultimately that person is gonna influence you to eat pork. It's just a matter of time, because those demons are gonna hop on you. So
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Joel 2:1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand.
And that's what we're doing right now. We're blowing that trumpet, being those watchmen, letting the people know what's coming. And you can see how the truth is really going out throughout all four corners of the earth, because you got people online making a bunch of videos talking about my experience with this and that. My dad's an Israelite, and my experience with the Israelites. And you got all these so-called popular Christians talking about, right, what is it, Stuart Cliff, and the other guy talking about the Israelites. It's becoming a talking point, which shows you that the truth is going out. Which I saw recently on an interview. It was this guy from, I think it's Fox News, that a popular, what, you know who I'm talking about?
Tuckerson?
Yeah, what was his name?
Carl Tuckerson?
Carl? I don't think his name's Carl.
But Tuckerson, that guy?
Yeah, that guy, Tuckerson, whatever his name is. Way back, there's a video of him, talking with the apostles, and they're breaking down, the prophecies. And he was acting as if he didn't know what was going on. They're asking him, hey, aren't you that guy from Fox News? He's like, nah, that's not me. So he knows what's going on. He knows, about the Edomites, the Israelites, who the people are. And recently he had an interview with this one pretty much Israeli guy, and he was telling them straight up, like, hey, these Israelis, they don't have any historical connection, to the ancient Israelites. It just goes back to, he was saying that Netanyahu doesn't have any connection at all. And how does he know that? Because the truth is going out.
Didn't he change his name to sound more Jewish, Netanyahu?
Yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu, but his real name is Bibi Milkowski. Yeah, which, they all changed their names in order to get that spotlight, less off of them. Which, when you go into a little bit of history, I think it was in New York or Chicago, you actually had a lot of these Italians that would change their name into something more Jewish in order to get a more power, to get in those circles more. Because they knew that if you in that connection that majority of people don't got. So they would change the names to Finkelberg, some Jewish ass name. Which that shows you who's in power. They are the top of the Edomites. And, Esau is so wicked that in reality, every single Edomite should be at the top. But Esau is wicked. He got his own, Edomites struggling here in America in their own kingdom. Homeless. Working, some slave job, as we all do. But, the point is that they're all supposed to be up, but the elites have pretty much hogged that blessing. And you can see how, all that dirt is coming out on them. It says that in, where you at right now?
I'm right now on Joel 2.
Well, I'll get it. 2 Thessalonians.
Here, you guys, on people on food stamps.
Yeah, literally. Let's see, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3, it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Right, so the falling away happened, which was the Israelites being scattered, and that man of sin being revealed is happening right now. It's just starting with these Edomites, those elites. They're being revealed for what they actually do. And you can see how, at one point, the apostles were speaking about this way back, talking about the Edomites, the elites, what they do, how they do all these sacrifices. But now it's on a global scale. Now everybody knows about these files and the wickedness that they're doing. So it's only going to amplify, as time goes by. You're going to see more and more, what these Edomites actually do. The wickedness that's going up top. So it says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Right? So they have that God complex. That's why they're pushing, you know, the NWO, the One World Order, so hard, because they want to be the gods. You know, they want to get that birthright back, going back to Esau and Jacob. And that's their way of getting that birthright back in their eyes, is to establish one world government, one religion, and to get everybody chipped up. Because as soon as you take that chip, hey, they really got full control over you. Can't say this, can't do that, can't eat, can't drink. You know, whatever you do is now in their power, which that's what the Most High is. He is in control of everything. But as it says in Job, that in the fullness of their sufficiency, you know, they shall be in straits. So at the fullness of them getting all their plans done, that's when the Most High is going to cut it. So they are going to get a lot of people chipped. They are going to get, to a certain extent, you know, the 2030 agenda and all that. But they're not going to go the full extent. But
I'm sorry, Joel.
let me finish this. It says, remember ye not that when I was with you, I told you these things, and now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. Right? And that's where we see that, you know, they're being revealed. Because at one point, you know, everybody just thought that, you know, Europeans, so-called white people, Caucasian, but now the information is coming out, you know, their true biblical nationality, you know, the Edomites. Which one point I always bring up is the fact that if you go to, you look at the architecture of the ancient, or the Edomites in Petra, Jordan, you find that it's the same architecture as the Greeks, the Romans, and the same thing here in America. Right? They're the only ones that build with those columns and the triangle up top. And they even had an eagle over there in Petra, Jordan. So it's the same thing. They still got that architecture, and they still represent themselves, you know, as the eagle, which the eagle is the most prideful bird because it's the highest flying bird. You know, so it's that pride that they have. And it says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Right? So they're referred to as the wicked, and the people that are the wicked are going to be the ones ruling when Yahweh Shai comes back. Which shows you that it has to be these people, you know, those small hats. And that links up to, what is it, Isaiah, was it 53? 63, when it talks about, who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Bozrah, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength, you know, he that is mighty to save, you know, talking about Yahweh Shai coming to destroy this kingdom. So, you know, these are the things that, going back to, you know, talking about blowing that trumpet of the prophets, these are the things that the church doesn't understand. Nowhere in all these churches are they breaking down these scriptures, tying the so-called white man to the Edomites, talking about Yahweh Shai coming back and destroying this kingdom. That's how you know that this is the truth, and as it says, you know, they're being revealed. That's how we know we're at the time of the end, because it says that, you know, at the time of the end, knowledge shall be increased. You know, nowhere in all of existence have you seen what we're seeing right now. In 100 years, we went from horses and carriages to cars that drive themselves. Artificial intelligence, you know. This is, you know, that time. And, you know, thank Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that we can see it, because you could be in the world completely lost. You know, talking about some Larry Wheels, some clavicular, lost in the YouTube sauce, the algorithm. You know, here it is. You know somebody is an NPC because that's all they talk about.
Well, they're on like that surface level stuff with the Great Awakening. Is
Yeah.
the thing?
Here it is. I know you a bot because I can see the algorithm in you. You know, I can see, I'll look at YouTube and I'll see the algorithm, what it's pushing. But you see people literally talking about those things, you know, on a day-to-day basis.
It's pretty much everybody's like, nobody got like an actual personality anymore. They're just going with what's trendy, and that's how they conduct themselves.
Yeah. Which I was thinking about that the other day, how, you know, we shouldn't be going and thinking how these influencers think. You know, we got to be the influencers. You know, we got to be the example of how to tell people how, you know, what to do, how to conduct themselves. You know, we should be those people. Not, you going on YouTube listening to this dude about dating advice. No, hey, the scriptures got the dating advice. They tell you that the woman is wicked, that the woman is going to be a harlot in the land. Your wife was going to be a harlot in the land. That, the woman is is just bands, snares, a trap.
Is she gonna encompass a man?
Yeah, the woman was going to encompass a man, run circles around you. So we don't need no Myron Gaines. Hey, we got the scriptures. And that's how you see how the apostles were really the beginning of the so-called red pill, because they're the ones bringing out the truth about the woman. So, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai is who we follow. Not some YouTube algorithm. These people are behind. We've known about things that we've known about things before they've even known about it. I think it literally talks about that in search up Spring Forth. I think it's in Isaiah.
Isaiah 42:9. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare before they spring forth, I tell you of them.
Right, so before these things happen, before they spring forth, I tell you of them. So before any of this happened, we knew that it was going to be this way because it was written. These people just think, going back to the woman, the woman is wicked, rah, rah, rah. But we know that the scriptures say that, the woman was going to be wicked, that the woman was going to rule over the man. This was written, more than 2,000 years ago. And now we're seeing it play out. Babylon the Great. So it's the same thing with things that haven't happened yet. We know that they're coming. And that's why we got the upper hand. Because we know. Now that's all it goes back to. We know that these things are going to happen. So, read that where you're at. Joel 2.
Joel 2:2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of cloud and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever like, neither shall there be any more after it, even to the years of many generations.
Right, because after this last world war, after this kingdom, there's not going to be any more wars at all. It's going to be peace, and the Israelites are going to be the ones exacting that peace. I believe it says that in, I'm going to get it, Isaiah chapter 2. It talks about how, that's my boss.
I was about to say.
Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. Right, so going into, the kingdom of heaven, the Israelites ruling. Okay, that's what it's talking about. The mountain of Yahweh is going into a kingdom. There's many times in the scriptures talk about mountains, they talk about hills. It's going into big governments and small governments. So it says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh to teach it says, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Right, so we're going to be pushing the law as the new vibration, the way of living. And it's going to come, as it says, out of Zion. They're going to have to literally come and learn the law, because they're not going to be as us, having the law, statutes, and commandments inside of them. That's part of the second covenant, which is only for the Israelites. So that right there shows you that the Lord is not dealing with all nations. Just the fact that they have to learn the law. It says, and he shall judge amongst the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Right, so all their weapons are going to be turned into farming tools, as they're going to be put to work, and they're not going to know war anymore, because That's going to be completely cut out of the equation. So, that's what's coming. That's the end game, the end plan. And to get there, this place has to go down. And tying it back to, what I was saying, what we were saying in the beginning, how we don't have a, long-term mindset for this place. In actuality, we're supposed to be looking for the downfall of this kingdom. But you tell a person here in this world that, and they're going to think that you're crazy. Well, you telling me you want to see the world end? You want to see nuclear destruction? What you going to do if there's nuclear destruction? How are you going to survive? Because these people are in the world. They want to see the world prosper. If it was up to a nigga and he be smoking weed, with bitches around him, playing the video game all day, fully in the world, if it was up to these people, committing wickedness, adultery, that's what niggas want to do. But that's not what's going to happen. And as the brothers used to say that, hey, in order to appreciate righteousness, we have to see the consequence of wickedness. So, in order to appreciate the kingdom, we have to see the consequences of breaking the commandments. And this is the consequence: wickedness. The fact that everything we see is literally the consequence of wickedness, the way that society operates. Here it is, woman is dissatisfied, man is dissatisfied, because the relationship dynamic has been flipped backwards. So everything is out of course, and that's why the only solution is Yahushua. It says that in Deuteronomy 28, part of the curses, it says that no man shall buy you. No one was going to redeem us from this condition. That's why no Martin Luther King, no Malcolm X, none of these so-called revolutionaries ever did anything. They didn't get us out of this condition, put us at the top. It was only Yahushua is going to do that. He has that privilege. So keep reading on that.
A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them.
Break that down.
How we're going into all these things have to happen, and we're pretty much blowing that trumpet to what's going to occur. And once these nuclear bombs hit, everything here is pretty much going to be like fried. There ain't going to be nothing left. So as it says, a day of darkness and a gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, because that's exactly what's going to be. Once everything here is burned, there's not going to be anything left of it. And it says, yea, and nothing shall escape them.
Yeah, and it goes into how on one side is the Garden of Eden, the other side is a desolate wilderness, going into how those nukes operate, how, it's sweeping. One side is everything is normal, next thing you know, instantly, it's a desert, and nothing's going to escape it. That's why I said 2 Peter that the day that the elements shall melt with fervent heat, elements, not just, the cardinal elements, everything is going to be, brought to the ground. Keep going on that.
The appearance of them as the appearance of horsemen, and a horseman so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of the mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of that fire that devoureth the stubble, as the strong people set in the battle array.
And this is all symbolic, talking about the missiles. And it talks about the horses and the horses. It's talking about the missiles. Keep going.
Before their face the people shall be much pained. All face shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. And they shall march every one in his ways, and they shall not break their ranks.
And that's what I was quoting about, how when they see those missiles, their faces are going to be black. They're not going to have a chance. They're going to know it's over.
Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path. And when they shall fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall not run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in the windows like a thief.
Right, and that's how you know it's not talking about no horse, because it says they're going to fall on the sword and not be wounded. This is something else. When it talks about going into the house and through the door, going into those missiles, going to consume everything, that fire is literally going to be doing that, going through everything.
The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
And another thing that shows you it's not no horse, because these horses, so-called, they're gonna make the earth shake and tremble. The sky's dark. It's talking about those missiles. Ain't no horse gonna make the earth shake.
And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it?
Right. And a link to those horses. So when you go into Revelation 9 and verse 16, it says, "And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them." So going into the amount of missiles, it's going to be in the millions. Millions of missiles are going to be going off. And the way you can accomplish that is because you can have one missile with like 20 multiple heads in it. One missile, but it has 20 different heads in it.
Warheads.
Yeah, warheads. So if you got, let's say 10,000 missiles with each having 20, that's 200,000 missiles literally right there. And, the world has more than that many missiles if you combine everything together. So it says, "And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone." And it says, "By these three was the third part of men killed by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths." Right, so a mass part of people are going to die through those missiles. Right, it says the third part, so a mass amount. Because, we understand that not everything is going to be nuked. There are going to be certain so-called safe zones that, missiles just don't hit. But as a collective, a lot of people are going to perish. It says, "For their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents and had heads, and with them they do hurt." Right, so the power of it is in the mouth, because that's where he got that payload. Right, and it says their tails were like unto serpents, because when you look at the design of a missile, normally you got the front a little bit bigger and like slims out, or you see that the back, the back of the missile has maybe some opening. It says, "And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold, and silver, and brass, and stone, and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor their sorcery, nor their fornication, nor their thefts." Right, so people that survive those nukes, they're still not going to repent. They're still going to be in their wicked ways and do what they do. Even after seeing, the Most High, the angels, and all this, there are people that still are not going to believe. And those are those same spirits that were back with Yahweh Shai that he said, "I perform miracles," and they still don't believe. Blessed are those that, have not seen miracles happen and believe. So even with seeing, people are still not going to believe. That's how, hard-headed some of our people are. And the other nations, they don't even have that point of believing. That's why it says that we're literally going to have to take away their weapons, because they're still going to try to come against us. Even seeing that we're the powers, they're still going to try to come against us. But that's going to be quickly, shut up. But
Should I continue reading Joel?
missing. Read verse 11.
"And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it?"
Right, so it's the end time prophecy. And as it says, he's going to utter his voice before his army. As it says here, and the number of the army of the horsemen, and then it goes into it. So it's all talking about the same event. If you put it all together, it's all about the nuclear destruction, which that's, one of the biggest prophecies is that destruction. I go to Isaiah 9, verse 16, I believe. I believe it talks about it there. Read from verse 5 to verse 7, and then jump down to another one.
Isaiah 1, 9 and 5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garment rolled in blood, for this shall be the burning and fuel of fire.
Let's break it down.
For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and the garment rolled in blood, for this shall be the burning and fuel of fire.
So every battle anciently was with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. So fighting, swords hitting each other, you cut off an arm, you got blood on you. That's how they all were. But what's coming is going to be with burning and the fuel of fire. So those missiles, it's going to be a different type of war. Keep going.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this.
Right, so this is talking about Yahushua and how, he's going to rule. Which, that shows you that, this is all written before, because before he even came, it was written that he was going to come. And that's how, when he came to all these cities, they were saying, is this he? Is this he? That's why some were even questioning, I thought he was supposed to come out of Bethlehem. I thought he was supposed to be over here. So they all knew of the prophecy of the Messiah. And yeah, it is written, multiple, all over the Old Testament is written about his coming. And it is also written about, his second coming, which that's also going to happen. But jump down to verse 19 to 20.
Isaiah 9 and 19. Through the wrath of the Lord of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother.
Right, so going into the fuel of the fire again, how, these people are going to be toasted up. And no man shall spare his brother. So going even before that happens, talks about how, a man's enemy shall be they of his own household. So the people closest to you are the most likely to betray you, because they're that close to do it. Which we're really gonna see that when famine hits, when people can't eat, we're gonna see that real betrayal. Because these people aren't spiritual. Try telling a nigga in the world when he ain't eating in 3-4 days that the Lord is gonna make you eat. He's gonna look at you like you're crazy. So that's when they're gonna resort to those carnal means.
And he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry, and he shall eat on the left hand. And they shall not be satisfied, they shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm.
Right, so they're gonna be looking for something to eat over here, over there, cannibalism. And it's gonna get so bad that they're gonna eat themselves. So that shows you how bad it's gonna get. People eating themselves. But you gotta be real bugged out to do that. I think that's like a beneficial thing. So go to 2 Ezra 15 and start at verse 14 and go down from there.
2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and to them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one shall stand up and fight against another, and the sword in their hand. For there shall be sedition among men.
Break that down first.
Pretty much what you're just reading in that last verse. It says, woe to them that dwell in the world. So everybody who's very worldly, everybody's not going to be out here pretty much turning on each other. And how it says sword in their hands, pretty much, you're going to be taking things from other people by any means necessary. Whether it be like by slaughtering them or like with a gun, which is the modern day sword.
Yeah, and sedition means Or you haven't read that yet? Keep going.
For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. In course of their actions shall stand in their power.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty much everybody's gonna just be doing whatever. There will be no law. It's gonna be a bunch of lawlessness.
Yeah, and
But-
sedition means coming against the government,
Yeah.
which you can see that happening right now. It's all being placed in the manner of anti-ICE, anti-Israel. That's the main two things people are realizing. And that's going to be the force that comes against the government. Because people are realizing the wickedness. But they themselves don't know that, you're not supposed to be doing that. If you're part of the elect, you're not supposed to be going to no rallies or no protests. That's not going to change anything. That you're ultimately putting a cross eye, on you.
A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride and cities, for because of their pride and the city shall be troubled. The house shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid.
Yeah, break that down.
I don't get that.
A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able.
Yeah, I'm assuming because of the chip.
Yeah, and also martial law. So you're gonna have to have, special verification to even move. To go out and to even go in, which you can see an example of that, with 2020, how you were able to enter certain buildings, certain establishments if you didn't have, the jump shot.
It was almost like a simulation.
Yeah.
Seeing how people would react to that.
Which, that famous Bill Gates came out in an interview with his wife Melinda, and he said that, just wait for the next one. The next one is really gonna get their attention. That guy from that World Economic Forum also said that about how, just wait. Wait for a cyber pandemic. Talking about blackouts, talking about the grid going down. These things, they're telling you from the top what's coming. And the way they look at it is, if you don't, get ready, it's on you. Because we put it in your face and you didn't do nothing, it's on you. You the fool now. That's how they literally look at it. The majority of people ain't gonna get right, so it is what it is.
For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the house shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Men shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation.
Alright, so men not having pity on his neighbor. People are not gonna care about each other, they're just gonna care about surviving.
It's gonna be that neighbor that you're real friendly with, you always chopping it up with in the morning, but when either of you guys have something to eat and he's starving, he's gonna just look at your house and it's gonna look real friendly. He's gonna want to break in and pretty much ransack you, take all your food.
And it makes sense why they would target the people close to him, because in their eyes, like, oh, I already know the layout of my mom. I know where she got her stuff stashed. I know how to get in and get out. I know where they sleep. That's gonna be the smartest thing they could think of, versus just hitting a random person's house. So that's why it says, the people of your own household, because they know you. And that's why it also says that a prophet is without honor in a city. So they ain't gonna look at at you as a prophet because, oh, I know them since a little jig. I seen them do fuck shit. How is he a prophet?
Yeah. They're gonna pretty much be like, I know the real you.
Yeah.
Because of all that worldly stuff you did. But in reality, that was just, you was just being a lion in the world,
Yeah.
It's a cycle you need to break out of.
And they even told that to Yahweh Shai. They say, isn't this the son's carpenter?
That's
You
how
know?
that's how they viewed him as, pretty much.
Yeah.
So they didn't take him seriously. So just know you won't be taken seriously. If Yahweh Shai wasn't taken seriously, why are they gonna take you seriously?
And I remember hearing a brother say that. He's like, you think your woman really believe you're a prophet? It's like, no. She does not believe that. Hey, one of these women's biggest tests is accepting the multiple women, doctrine. So, hey, let's see if they really believe. Once you tell them, yeah, baby, I got a little girl on the side, and you're going to see that true faith come out. You're going to see that demon hop out.
Ain't no woman in this day and society will understand that part.
Yeah, she got to be of the elect. And even then, women ain't believing, they're going to have their trials and tribulations. So it's no easy way out of this. everybody gonna go through their share of hell. And that's part of a woman's, hell is they gotta put off that old woman in the world. The old woman, the old mentality was a monogamy, and a man is on top of, a woman is equal with the man, and all that has to go, if you really believe in the Lord as a woman. It says, hey, treat the man as you treat the Lord. So the man is the woman's Lord.
You're supposed to serve him pretty much.
And if you tell that to a woman nowadays, that's slavery.
Oh, you want a slave?
Yeah, you want a slave.
It's because they want to be seen to you as their equal, like it's an equal thing. But if you look at those relationships of like that equal shit never worked. That shit will never work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she got that. It's a woman's instinct that she be fighting it to serve you and pretty much let you lead. And some will, like, if they in the right state of mind, will come out and say that. They say, after they've been through all this bullshit, several failed relationships, they're gonna say, I need a man like that will lead me. I need someone who's actually gonna tell me like what to do, because I can't do this shit. But they only gonna say that after all that bullshit they've been through.
After that realization that their ways ain't cutting.
After they, 33 kids, like
now it's time.
Now it's time to lock in, but
it's too late.
Yeah, it will be too late ultimately, because at that point, ain't nobody get to take your ass serious.
Yeah, so hey, man, it's backwards, but as it says, this is Babylon the Great. What you gonna expect from this place? Then I hear a brother say the other day how you expecting the kingdom in hell. You're expecting the woman to be 100% when we in hell, man. This is not the time to be focused on that.
That's like expecting to find like a pond of fresh water in the desert.
Yeah,
you ain't gonna find that shit.
If anything, it says the man's gonna be like that.
Yeah, that's what.
I'll pull it up. Isaiah 32. A man of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is gonna be like that. Not a woman. And Isaiah 32. Isaiah 32:2, it says, and a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So imagine, you in desert catching straight heat, and you find yourself a little shade. It's going nice. You in the desert and you find yourself a river. It's gonna be nice. So if anything is backwards, a man is gonna be like that, not a woman.
That goes back to that instinctual thing from these women, because when they start seeing all this shit really go to like hell, they gonna see certain men conducting themselves in the right manner, and they gonna be attracted to that in a way of like, oh, that's safety, that's my shade right there. I could rely on this person to take care of me and look after me. Yeah, and that's gonna be rare. How I was saying, it's like it's rare to find out that water, so it's gonna be rare to find that man that's pretty much gonna be on top of things in those days.
Yeah, and the thing is that right now, what women or the world value is not the correct thing, and that's why you see them with this broken mentality. Yeah. They've fallen for the ways of the serpent.
It's a real women are the prize kind of thing. Yeah. They got that women are the prize mentality.
They focus on the material things. I was seeing a clip by some YNs, a little podcast they had. And it said the fastest way to leave for your woman to leave is to treat her nice. Fastest way for you to have your woman leave is to treat her nice. Treat her, as a gentleman. But, they don't want that. They want the YN. They want to be physically, emotionally, abused. And it goes back to, the programming. On them being focused on material things. But soon, when all the material things collapse, that's when they're going to have to shift their value system. And they're going to realize, what? All that money, all that, that doesn't even matter now. I need to survive. And that's when they're going to go back to that natural state of realizing, damn, I actually need a man. And that's when, everything's going to go back to how it's supposed to be. The Isaiah 4:1. There's a reason it says 7 women to 1 man. Because a man, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, is going to be in high demand. So, right now we're living in the upside down. And soon, that's why, I hear a lot of brothers talk about, even Paul said it. He said, they that have women be as though they had none. So don't focus on that. Because it's just a distraction. If you got yourself a little wife, you got a woman, she's dealing cool by you, that's cool. As it says, if you got a woman, don't seek to be loose. But if you don't got one, don't seek a wife. focus on the Lord, because that's how you're going to be able to, you're going to be more focused. It's less of a distraction. So going back to what we were saying about how, all these people go on YouTube for advice and direction. We got the scriptures to give us the direction. The Bible is our influencer, not no YouTube influencer. Let's keep going on that. We'll actually jump down to verse 28 and go from there.
2 Ezra 15 and 28. Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east. Whereas the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmenians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians.
Right, and this is talking about the World War III. By the dragons of Arabia going into your Arabs, they gonna collab with the Carmanians, which Carmania was a province of Iran, going into the Iranians really. So the Arabs with those Iranians, they gonna be raging in wrath, coming against to destroy a portion of the land of the Assyrians, which is really talking about the land of Israel.
What do they call in the Old Testament, the Arabs, like they call them
keep reading,
a wild man. Also the Carmenians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And then shall the dragon have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Then
that goes into what you were saying, how those dragons, they're going to remember their nature.
Yeah.
Because it talked about how Ishmael was a wild man, and his hand was going to be against his neighbor, every single neighbor. Wanted to, they have that real fighting mentality. Yeah. That's why you hear the apostles say that, hey, if you could convert, he said, if you could convert, what's the name? Yeah, you could convert a Muslim, you did a mighty work. Because some niggas, they got that strong demon on them.
That's why it refers some here as dragons and boars, wild boars. Because if you see a wild boar in the woods, like, it's just gonna come at you with full force, and like a beast, pretty much.
So they're gonna go back to that, and that shows you that they were taken out of that spirit. And the reason why is because they drank of the wine of Babylon. Here it is. They were boars, they were wild men, but they drank a little bit, and now they got a little soft. They forgot who they were. They were. But as soon as that alcohol stopped doing its effect, as it says, they drank of the cup, and they became drunk, and they were mad, roughly paraphrasing. So they're realizing that, hey, there's some poison. This ain't no wine. This is poison. And that's why all nations are turning upon this place, because they're realizing that America is the poison. Eventually, all nations will turn on this place. Every single nation will come against America and Israel.
We're starting to see it now, because everywhere, all around the world, like, everybody's like with the whole. At the end of the day, it's still like a push propaganda with the whole Great Awakening, but that's being done on purpose. So the prophecies are, being fulfilled faster. I was seeing in the Olympics, like when the Israelis came out, like everybody was like silent. You hear boos here and there, but like everywhere you go, you see that Jew hate now.
Yeah. But the thing about that is that what part of their plan is to make conspiracy theorists mainstream. So, and the reason why is to ultimately, label these so-called conspiracy theorists, as crazy. And a perfect example of that was 2020. 2020 was like the most perfect setup. Because here it is, all the people, so-called conspiracy theorists, realize that, hey, yo, like, this shit ain't real. Not that many people are dying, and that jump shot is really killing people. So, the so-called theorists were right. But now, what's happened is that you have these conspiracy theorists that they jump on every single thing and try to say it with full force. And what's going to happen is that the next one that they bring around, they're going to have that same rhetoric of, nah, I don't trust the government, it's not real, this and that. But the next one is really going to do something. And that's where, everything is going to be flipped on the theorists. They're going to be seen as the crazy ones because they're actually crazy in this point. It is going to be dropping people left and right. and they're gonna be saying the same thing as 2020. Nah, it ain't doing nothing. So you know how you can see how it's being set up, slowly but surely, to really demonize anybody that comes against, the mainstream narrative. And eventually, that's gonna be really put upon us. This is the same thing that happened with Yahweh Shai, the disciples, and he was talking about, hey, I'm gonna tear down the temple, and in 3 days I'm gonna rebuild it. Here it is, the Pharisees were hearing that saying, he gonna tear down our temple, he's gonna come against us. But he was really talking about something else. So it's the same thing. This government is gonna look at us as, they're trying to tear this shit down. They're talking about the destruction of America. They're gonna tie us to some terroristic attack, and say, oh, they were behind it because they talk about it. We already see 10 steps ahead of how they're gonna do it, but it's still gonna happen. And that's the real, humiliation process. It's the same as Yahweh Shai. He knew that he was gonna be humiliated, but he still took it. And we know that we're gonna be humiliated, but we still have to take it, no matter what. That's part of, bearing that cross. So that's why, you gotta have a strong foundation, because what you're gonna do when, the mainstream media, when people around you start spilling out dirt on you. Here it is, none of us perfect, but how are you gonna act when they pull out all that dirt on you and try to label you as, the villain? Are you gonna still believe what you believe? Or are you gonna, fold in, take the chip, go back into the world? That's why, a strong foundation is the most important thing. Not knowing 1,000 breakdowns, just strong foundation. Really have that faith. But go to 2nd Ezra 16 and start at verse 2 to verse 8.
2nd Ezra 16:2. Gird up yourselves with the cloak of sack and hair, bewail your children and be sorry, for your destruction is at hand. A sword is set upon you, and who may turn it back? A fire is set among you, and who may quench it? Plagues are sent onto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away any hungry lion in the wood? Or may any quench the fire and stubble, where it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the sorrow that is shot of a strong archer? The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away?
And that's the point, is that there is no stopping this. There is no going back, no comeback, no make America great again. It's all going to lead to what's written. It's all going to lead to that World War III. It's all going to lead to the destruction of America by the way of nuclear missiles. It's going to happen, as it says, the least of the flock shall draw them out, starting with the Israelis. And they're going to be the ones that escalate everything, drag America into that destruction. It's going to be Russia leading the front, backed with Iran, China, Libya, Ethiopia. We know everything is going to happen, and as it says, who's going to stop that arrow that the Lord shoots? Nobody's going to stop it. So that's why we got to do the best we can to stay on point, because we know what's coming.
And I feel like ultimately, like how it says, he's the one sending all this stuff. Hey, you doing your best is the only thing that's gonna help save you, because he's the only one who can save you from all this stuff, because he's the one bringing this upon us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you just gotta do your best to act right and be on point.
Yeah, and that's why it says that, knowing the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. So knowing what's going to happen, that's supposed to persuade you, like, damn, this shit really all gonna go down. And what if you got that faith, that spirit on you, you're gonna be able to read the scriptures and like really visualize it in your head. And that's what's supposed to get you right, is the fear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. You know the judgment, so you act accordingly. And that applies to everything. The kid acts accordingly because he knows he touches the stove, he's gonna get his hand burned. If a woman, same thing, she knows she's supposed to act accordingly, because if she doesn't, she's gonna be without a hedge, without a protection, out here in the world, in the streets.
Right now it's different, because
they don't got no fear.
Hey, she not acting right, she gonna go hop on her or something else.
And I'll end it with this, as the elder Amakama says from Chicago. He said, these bitches riding the cock carousel, but soon the cock carousel gonna ride them. They jump from man to man to man. When all shit collapses, these men gonna have their way with you. And they gonna really ride you. And that's if you don't got that protection, once again. So, with that, I'm gonna give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, God, Shai, Ba'ashim, Kakadash. Double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone at Thomas Truth. Shalom to you, Shalom.